Hello, this is János, and it's going to be the unboxing video of the year, at least for me. And why is that? That's because I'm going to unbox something for you, and that very something will be a camera. And hopefully during the unboxing I will have an assistant with me. Let's just have a look at that. I'm waiting for my assistant to step up. Machi. Okay, it's not happening. Machi. I think she needs a little help. Yeah, okay. Okay, here's my assistant. Machi. Okay, it looks like today I'm not getting that much help as I thought, so I have to unbox it myself. So it might not be the unboxing video of the year anymore. So anyway, so let's see what do we have here. Something that has been extremely well packaged, and it came from Japan. So if you are buying a camera from Japan, I would say do not worry about packaging, because so far anything camera related I got from Japan have been absolutely wonderfully packaged, and I had zero problem with packaging. However, from within United States here locally, I had from good to terrible experience. So I really had a very expensive lens break during shipping, because it was just massively inadequately packaged by the seller. So let's just open it up, and I think now look at that. So now I think you can tell this is a Canon camera. And what I will do now, because my assistant has left me, so I'm going to move my camera closer so you can see more of that of the camera. And let's maybe just adjust it a little bit. What do we see here? Okay, now the framing is better, and as you see, this is a Canon camera. You can already tell it's from the 5D series, and it is the classic model. And check this out. Usually people are afraid to order or to buy the 5D classic because, you know, this is already 18 years old, this model, or when you watch it might be even older, and this is just astonishing. It looks like it just came out of the factory. It looks like a brand new camera. And this is a used camera. Isn't it just amazing? So your question might be, János, why did you get the 5D Classic? What's going on? And sometimes I'm looking there instead of there, because that's where I see on the screen whether it's still recording or not. And as you see, my camera assistant is not doing a very good job at monitoring the progress of the filming. Actually, she already... Let's show her. So she is right there. Let's focus on her. You see, she is going to sleep. There is not much happening there, so that takes care of it. So that leaves us to talk about the camera. Anyway, so the number one reason I got this camera, because I had something that looks almost exactly the same. And if you look at them, you hold them, they are virtually identical. And this is the Canon 20D. And there's a lot of talk about which is the crop sensor equivalent of the 5D Classic, and some people say, well, it's the 40D, 30D, some say 20D. So what's going on here? Why do I say the 20D is the crop sensor equivalent of the 5D Classic? And I'm saying that because this is the model based on which they developed the 5D Classic. So this was the one that preceded the 5D Classic. The 30D, 40D came after the 5D Classic came out. And yes, there's commonality between all of them, but I would say that the closest to the 5D Classic in a crop sensor is most likely the 20D. And this is where you are going to have the most similar image feel as you get from the 5D Classic. And that's because as you go, anyway, I don't want to go into that right now. Next time we'll go into that, otherwise I'm just going off track way. So basically, why did I get the 5D Classic? I dearly love this camera, the 20D. And honestly, while I had it, I always wanted something better. I had my professional photographer friends, and they had the 5D Mark II. I got it at the time when the 5D Mark II was already out, and then the Mark III, and finally the Mark IV. And the photos they took with the 5D Mark II through Mark IV were just so much better than my photos with this camera. And of course, one more critical thing, that I had the nifty 50 on it. So this is the 50mm Canon, and it's an f1.8 lens, and it's really good for the price, which is extremely low. You can find it everywhere, but it doesn't produce images that are the same sharpness, same color as the Canon L lenses. So when you get an L series lens like my professional friends had, the photos with those lenses are just so much more vibrant and richer in color than what I can take with this lens. And actually my big beef with this lens was the focusing. So even if the color was acceptable, but I wanted more, but I just kept on missing the focus, and just slightly, it's just slightly off, slightly out of focus. And of course I can improve my technique. I could have improved my technique as well. That was a part of it, but also the really big part of it was that this lens, actually this copy that I have, others might be different, was just very poor at focusing, and compared to other lenses that my friends had. However, that was kind of the setup I could afford at that time, and I didn't want to go the upgrade route to start going for different lenses, bigger lenses, and as I'm not a professional photographer, just taking photos for fun, I just didn't want to buy a massive lens for this camera, and I couldn't afford it either. So still, despite its shortcomings, I was really happy with it, and actually it was just until recently that I found out how good this camera really was, when with the new DPP4, which is Canon's RAW editor, I started editing the photos, and I found that there was so much more in those files than I ever suspected. So today I was thinking maybe even a 20D, if you get one now, is just a fantastic choice. But one thing that I lagged with the 20D is the low light capability. So that was one reason why I went for the full frame to replace this one, because of the full frame. So it has a little bit better low light sensitivity. It's nothing like today's modern cameras, which are low light beasts, like the big Sony or the Canon R3 or something like that. Forget that. But compared to the 20D, it is promising to be much better in low light. And when you think about low light, it is not just the picture it takes in low light, but also the ability to focus in low light. Because with this camera, what I noticed is actually there's plenty of shots I took with this camera at ISO 3200. But the grain is so phenomenal, so filmic, that they are just absolutely wonderful. And when today with those low light beasts, you take a shot, and you can see there's much less grain on it, much less noise, and when you look at it at like a 2 megapixel resolution size, it looks fantastic. But once you start zooming in and you want to employ the advantage of the modern high megapixel sensor, what I see is the word disgusting came to my mind. The noise, the ISO noise of modern cameras tends to be, for the most part, just atrocious, beyond atrocious. And that's why I have a lot of professional photographer friends, and they are sticking to the 5D series, and they absolutely refuse to go to mirrorless. Because with the mirrorless technology, there is not just improvement in the sensor quality as far as low light goes, but there's also a sharpening baked into the picture, and that's what I'm hearing from a lot of photographers, that for their own pleasure they are going back to the DSLRs to take photos, because they just give you beautiful images with natural look. And these modern cameras, they have that. I can only compare like nails scratching a chalkboard. So if you are sensitive to that, then that's the equivalent, the visual equivalent for me. Seeing modern mirrorless cameras at high ISO, magnified to 100% pixel level. So what else? So eventually, before I got the 5D Classic, I was thinking about which camera to buy. But before I got into that, I also mentioned that the professional photographers who have already transferred to mirrorless, they are using the mirrorless for their professional work, because it is just, as we would say, a total game changer. Makes taking photos so much easier, so much more convenient. Focusing with them is just kids play. You don't need to be a professional photographer anymore to nail sharp focus. It's just became point and shoot, really. And that aspect comes extremely handy for professional work. You can finish sooner, you will have a much higher rate of keepers. Missing focus is a thing of the past with a good mirrorless camera today. But what you will not get is the look, the photo itself. So if your client is ordering like 200 shots from you, or sessions or something that you have, that they are paying for, and you are under pressure, of course you will use the mirrorless. That's what I hear from as a feedback. But when you go and take photos for your pleasure, when no one's pressuring you, and you want that as a memory, you want that as a photograph for its artistic value, for something that means something to me, means so much more to you than just a paying job, then what I'm hearing from more and more professional photographers, that they are reaching back to their DSLRs. and that was my main reason why I went for a DSLR replacement. Okay, winding back another step. I just misled you before, because before I went for the 5D Classic, which I just unboxed, you must be noticing that you are seeing a video right now of me talking, and you are seeing that video with a mirrorless camera. That's right. I bought a mirrorless for video work, to make these videos for you, and also I have a channel on audio gear, and that's why I bought it, to make the videos with a camera instead of using my phone, which kept on overheating and popping the batteries. So I realized that even though people were fine with the cell phone shots, but I was not fine just replacing batteries constantly. So that's why I got mirrorless. And I tremendously enjoyed that it's so easy to get focus, to nail focus with it, and I can use it as a camera. You see, I put it and I just block my eyes and it focuses on the camera perfectly. And now I take it away, and now I can see that little rectangle around my eye, around my left eye, and there it is. I don't have to worry about focus. Even if it's darker, I can crank the ISO up. But when I was taking pictures for my pleasure, what I noticed is that when I'm using ISO 100 through 200, I like the pictures. And I can even zoom into 100% and it looks acceptable. But once I go higher with the ISO, things start to get really nasty, and I can crank the ISO up to the several thousand range and I can still shoot. I have made shots in almost pitch dark, and it can still focus and take photos with and show me more content than I can see with my eyes. And that's something absolutely phenomenal. And I have really taken a couple shots like that, which I absolutely love. But how I will make another video about that, because this is now not about my mirrorless camera, but this is just about how I was initially disappointed with my mirrorless, with their native lenses. And those where I was happy with it, with the low light shot, was with the manual lenses, adapted manual lenses. And that's what brought me back the joy of the mirrorless camera. But still, I'm still missing a bit of that texture, that look that my 20D gave me. The photos, this shot were just, I am amazed now. In the past, I was not impressed at all. I was really, I would say I was disappointed in it. And that's not because I didn't like the photos, but one thing, I wanted more, because my friends had much better cameras, much better lenses, and also the critical feedback I got was a lot of technical feedback, and I just assumed that my photos as in general suck. But later on it's turned out that it's not true, and we'll discover why and how and continue the unboxing. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll continue. Bye bye.